And what I'd like to do now is to hand over to Paul to kind of do the last section before we hand over to Nicola and Carrie to finish us off. Paul, are you there?
I am indeed. Thanks, Tony. And quite an amazing morning. So many different issues, and I really enjoyed the group I was in. So I want to speak for, well, I'm going to speak for 5 minutes and try and compress what I normally talk about for an hour or so about the nature of change. And because we've heard a lot of ideas today, but the fact is, how do we actually change? We want individual change, community change, local, national policies change. We want systemic change. And, you know, I've worked in this field of change management, behavioural change for over 30 years. And I just want to end with some lessons that I've learned, which might be useful to you here. And then finish with, if you like, a rallying call for what I think SECA could be in terms of trying to get the sort of agenda that we've been discussing to actually make something happen here. In my view, too many change campaigns fail because they're poorly designed and they're based on incorrect assumptions. And here are some ways of minimizing risk. First of all is ensure you're working with the key stakeholders. Sometimes we like to work with the people who we find easiest to work with, who are most like us. But when you're in a change process, you have to learn how to work with people who you don't agree with. You know, I'm a member of the Green Party, but I know I have to work with people of all political persuasions. We have to think, you know, across the board and not just work with people we enjoy working with. And the more inclusive we can be, the better. As several people have said, you know, looking around everybody here, we are still a very narrow group of people, and we have to get out to the mainstream and find innovative ways, and we've heard quite a few in the different groups of getting out to people. Next, I think it's making it relevant to people's everyday lives. You know, when I first started out 25 years ago in environmental change and management, I thought people, as soon as they know the facts, that's all they need to know. You know, as soon as people realize what we're doing to the planet, surely that's enough. But what we've all realized is knowledge isn't enough. Awareness isn't enough. It's about bringing about change. And why do people change? Well, people change their behavior markedly, extraordinary. During the lockdown, we did things we could never have imagined in terms of restrictions, staying at home, not seeing loved ones, wearing masks, social distancing. So we can change. We are actually very flexible and we can habituate very quickly. But we need to make environmental change and green change relevant to people's lives. And the reason we changed in the pandemic was because of our health. And we need to, when we're constructing campaigns, is think about what are people's priorities: health, family, education, jobs, and really connect our message to those. One of the, probably the single biggest mistake I see in change, whether it be in organizations or community, is a lack of maintenance. And what I mean by that is we put a lot of energy to start the change process, to get people excited, motivated. We have vision boards, you know, we have big meetings, but it's actually the boring stuff that makes all the difference. It's maintaining it. The fact is, the numbers show that most people don't finish their intended change, whether it be going to a gym, whether it be doing a diet, or whether it be recycling everything, or whatever they decide to do. So we need to find ways of not just starting it, but more importantly, in many ways, maintaining the change. It's about making it convenient. What we're learning from behavioural science, and particularly the work of nudges, which you might have heard of, or the more formal term choice architecture, which was developed by one of only 2 psychologists to get the Nobel Prize, Richard Thaler, was we have to make it as simple and convenient and accessible. So, for example, where I know Jeff Barnard with me at Green and Stenning, we're talking about how green is my street, where we compare different streets, where we can see what our neighbours are doing and compare it. That makes it more likely. Another nudge is using local spokespeople who are credible and likeable, getting people to make pledges. Yes, pledges really do work, and having social proof of highlighting people who've really benefited from doing this behaviour. But the two final things I want to talk about in lessons of change are the big ones again for me, along with maintenance. One is to be positive. And I'm glad that a lot of people have said how important it is we have positive, inspiring stories. One of the biggest reasons why green initiatives fail is because they're too negative. And of course, the news is incredibly negative. We're in a terrible state. We know that. But the problem is, as neuroscientists have shown, that when we feel guilt, fear and anxiety, it actually closes us up. It encourages us to freeze, you know, literally to feel like we paralyze us almost, so we can't take action. It's overwhelming. So we need to give some people something positive to move towards rather than something negative to move away from. We need an optimistic vision of what the good life could be, how life could be better for people, and to get people engaged in discussions like this, talking about positive visions of the future. And the final one is the area which I specialize most in, those of you who know me, which is having a compelling story. In my group, I talked about the American group, Climate Mobilization. And this is a group that's been very successful, has similar aims to SECA in some ways. They encourage cities in the US to declare a climate emergency, but they go further. What they say is the whole of American society, in fact, global society, has to be on a war footing in terms of a war to save humanity, to save our planet, or certainly you know, to prevent catastrophic climate change. And their message is to protect communities across the world from a climate emergency. We need a radical solution, a whole society mobilization of people and resources. And I love this idea of mobilization, of thinking, how can we get every person in society involved in this? It probably isn't possible, but there is finding the individual motivations for groups and individuals. So I'd like to end by offering a suggestion, a vision, if you like, of where SECA could go. You know, we're all very different groups and we have different focuses and issues, but we're united by similar values and a similar desire to prevent climate and biodiversity collapse. And we're all committed to change. So why not make SECA a group of climate or change champions? And why don't we become experts in the change process? And we could become a mutual support group, sharing best practices in change management, where we collectively leverage our memberships, our skills, our resources, our networks and influence to help each other bring about the changes that we so desperately need. So why not become a collaborative network of change champions? Thank you very much.